Hey everyone, welcome back.
Welcome to The Psychology of Gambling, the podcast from Mind Over Odds, where we believe if you control your emotions, you control your outcomes.
Yeah, and today we're really getting into a deep dive on this psychological phenomenon that, it touches almost every single one of us.
Oh, absolutely, whether we even realize it or not.
Right. So to kind of set the stage for you, I want you to picture a scenario that I can pretty much guarantee we have all lived through at some point.
I'm ready.
Okay, so it's like 11 p.m., you're lying in bed, the blue light of your phone is just illuminating your face in the dark, and you tell yourself, I'm just going to check one text message.
Famous last words, right.
Exactly. But then you see, like, that little red notification bubble on a social media app. So you tap it, and you scroll, and you swipe, and suddenly you look up, and it's 12:01 a.m.
Yeah, time just vanishes.
It really does. You are completely stuck in this doom-scrolling loop, constantly chasing that next little hit of excitement, that next funny video or breaking news update. Or maybe you're waiting for someone you really like to text you back, and you just literally cannot put the phone down.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
There's just this familiar, almost like magnetic pull keeping your eyes glued to the screen.
It's an incredibly powerful feeling.
Yeah.
And honestly, validating that feeling is just so important.
Right.
Because you aren't just lacking willpower in that moment. Your brain is actively being manipulated. And that shared human experience, the one you just described, is the perfect gateway to understanding what we call the dopamine gap.
The dopamine gap. Okay.
This gap is the hidden mechanism that gambling environments, and yes, modern technology algorithms too, use to basically bypass our logical brains and hack our emotional control.
Wow.
And that's our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to unpack the actual neurological mechanisms behind these designs so you can sort of recognize the game and regain power over your own choices.
Okay, I love that. Let's dive right into that, because I feel like the word dopamine gets thrown around constantly right now.
Oh, all the time.
Right. Like usually when we talk about checking our phones or pulling the lever on a slot machine, we talk about dopamine as if it's this pure pleasure chemical.
Yes.
We just assume we are chasing a feeling of happiness.
And that right there is one of the single biggest myths out there. If we really want to understand emotional control, we need to completely reframe how we think about dopamine.
Okay. How so?
Well, it is not a pleasure chemical. It doesn't actually create the feeling of liking something.
Wait, really?
Really. Dopamine is actually the molecule of wanting. It's the chemical driver of motivation and anticipation.
Wait, so it's not the reward itself that feels good. It's the drive to go hunt down the reward.
Precisely. To understand how this works, we have to look at this sort of mathematical formula in the brain called the reward prediction error.
The reward prediction error.
Right. Because your brain is essentially a prediction machine. It is constantly calculating what it thinks is going to happen next. So it runs a continuous equation, which is basically actual reward minus expected reward.
Okay, let me make sure I'm tracking this. So let's say I expect my friend to hand me $10 and they hand me $10.
Okay. Yep.
So in that case, the expected reward matches the actual reward.
Right. And in that scenario, your dopamine levels actually just stay flat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you got exactly what you predicted, so the brain doesn't need to release any motivation chemicals to, learn from the event. It's mathematically resolved.
Okay, that makes sense.
But now, if you expect $10 and you get $0, you experience a negative prediction error. Your dopamine crashes, which just feels like bitter disappointment.
Sure, yeah. But what if I expect nothing and then I just randomly find a $10 bill in my winter coat pocket?
Oh, the best feeling, right. That is a positive prediction error. The actual reward was higher than the expected reward. So your brain gets a massive sudden surge of dopamine.
Oh, wow.
It's an incredibly powerful rush designed to make you remember exactly what you did, so you can repeat the behavior.
Okay, so our brains are literally hardwired to crave outcomes that are better than we expect.
Exactly.
But how does that explain the magnetic pull of a slot machine or doom scrolling? Because with those, we usually don't get what we want, right? We're mostly losing or just seeing junk online.
This is exactly where we hit the dopamine gap. Think about what happens to that math equation when the outcome is uncertain.
Uncertain, like I don't know what's coming.
Yeah. Say you have a 50-50 chance of winning a hand of blackjack, or you're waiting for that text message that may or may not arrive. Your brain cannot resolve the reward prediction error equation.
Oh, because it doesn't have the final number yet.
Right. It doesn't know if the actual reward will be higher or lower than the expected reward. Because the math is suspended, your brain suspends you in this sustained plateau of dopamine.
Wow.
That plateau is the dopamine gap. It locks you into a state of perpetual anticipation. You are basically chemically trapped in the zone of almost.
That is so interesting. So it's kind of like tracking a package delivery online.
Yes.
Like the waiting, the constantly refreshing of the tracking page is actually keeping my brain's chemistry more engaged than the moment the cardboard box finally gets dropped on my porch.
That is a brilliant everyday analogy. The waiting, the uncertainty itself, is what creates the chemical high.
Because the arrival is almost like boring compared to the buildup.
Totally. The actual arrival of the package often feels like a letdown because the dopamine gap finally closes. The math is done.
Oh, wow.
And because our brains are naturally wired to obsess over that gap of anticipation, gambling environments are specifically designed to stretch that gap out for as long as humanly possible.
So how exactly do they stretch it out? I mean, eventually the roulette wheel stops spinning, right? The equation has to resolve at some point.
It resolves for single turns, sure, but the overall environment prevents you from walking away by using something called a variable ratio schedule.
Variable ratio schedule. Okay.
Yeah. Which simply means that rewards are completely random and unpredictable. You don't know if you'll win on the next spin, the 5th spin, or, the 100th spin. You only know that if you keep playing, a reward might eventually happen.
So the unpredictability is the feature, not a bug. It keeps my brain's prediction machine constantly guessing.
Exactly. When rewards are distributed randomly like that, our brain's learning algorithm gets completely locked in. It creates a behavioral state that we call extinction resistance.
Okay, let's translate extinction resistance into plain English.
Sure.
I'm guessing this basically means our behavior resists going extinct, meaning we just won't stop doing it.
Spot on. Think about a standard vending machine. A vending machine operates on a fixed, predictable schedule.
Right, you put $1 in, you get a soda.
Exactly. So if you put your dollar in and the machine is broken, nothing comes out.
Right, and I know instantly that the environment has changed. I'm not going to stand there and feed 20 more $1 bills into a broken machine. I walk away immediately.
Right. Your behavior extinguishes. That is a perfect example of how our brains normally learn.
Okay.
But contrast that with fishing or playing a slot machine. The baseline mathematical experience of a slot machine is mostly losing. You're conditioned from the start to expect long, dry stretches without a reward.
Oh, I see.
So when a machine goes cold, your brain cannot mathematically tell the difference between a normal losing streak and a permanent drought.
Ah, that makes so much sense. Because the baseline is already unpredictable. A broken pattern just looks like part of the game. You just keep going, hoping the very next pull will break the streak.
Right. So when well-meaning people tell someone struggling with gambling to, just walk away, they are fundamentally misunderstanding the situation.
It's not just a lack of willpower.
Not at all. Their biological hardware has been hijacked. The variable ratio environment has actively tricked their brain's natural learning system into believing that persistence is the only way to resolve that dopamine gap.
Well, wait, if I'm tracking this, this unpredictability isn't just accidental math, is it?
Definitely not.
Because the machines we play today are highly engineered. They must be intentionally programmed with, like, visual and audio tricks to artificially simulate that almost feeling we were just talking about.
They absolutely are. It is highly calculated brain hacking. Let's look at two specific design mechanics used to keep that gap open.
Okay.
The first is called a near miss. Imagine you're looking at a slot machine. You get two jackpot symbols right on the pay line, and the third symbol lands just 1/fraction of an inch above the line.
Oh, man. That hurts just thinking about it. You feel like you were so close.
Right.
But objectively, if we're doing the math, a near miss is a total failure, right?
Yeah.
You didn't win a single dime. It is a 100% financial loss.
Objectively, yes.
Yeah.
But neurologically, no. Brain imaging actually reveals something fascinating here.
With that.
When you experience a near miss, your subcortical reward center, which is the exact same primitive part of your midbrain that processes massive life-changing monetary wins, it lights up identically to a win.
That is wild. Wait, so my brain is literally throwing a chemical celebration for a financial loss simply because it looked visually similar to a win.
Exactly. And this creates a deeply ingrained illusion of control. And this illusion gets heavily magnified if you physically interact with the game.
Like tapping the screen?
Yeah, tapping a digital screen or manually pushing a button to stop the reels. You see, your brain has this built-in conflict monitoring network that helped you learn physical skills, like throwing a basketball.
Okay.
When you stop the reels yourself and get a near miss, your brain interprets that not as a random loss dictated by a computer chip, but as an error signal that says, hey, your skill is improving. You almost got the timing right.
Oh, wow. So it tricks your nervous system into thinking it's a game of skill when it's entirely pure chance. You think you're getting better at randomly generated math.
Right. And game designers know exactly how to tune this biology. There is actually a documented sweet spot for near misses. Yeah, if they happen roughly 30% of the time, player motivation and the duration of the playing session are artificially pushed to their absolute maximum.
Okay, so that's the near miss. But there's a second trick you mentioned, right? Losses disguised as wins or LDWs. How do those work?
This one takes advantage of the visual complexity of modern digital machines. Like, decades ago, a slot machine had one single line across the middle. It was easy to see if you won or lost.
Right, cherries in a row, you win.
Exactly. But today, they have multi-line setups where you can bet on 50 different zigzagging lines all at once.
So it's visual overload. It's much harder for the human eye to keep track of what's actually happening on the screen.
Precisely. So here's an LDW in action. You bet a total of $1 spread across all these intersecting lines. The machine spins, and you match a tiny combination on one obscure line in the corner that pays back 30 cents.
Okay, let me do the math. I bet $1, I get 30 cents back. I just lost 70 cents.
The math says you lost 70 cents. But the machine does not act like you lost.
Right, I'm guessing there's a lot of noise.
Oh yeah, it plays triumphant, celebratory music. The LED lights flash in rhythmic patterns. The digital coins rain down on the screen.
That's like buying a $5 cup of coffee, finding a shiny quarter on the floor of the cafe on your way out, and throwing a massive block party because your brain thinks you made money today.
That is exactly the perfect analogy for what is happening inside your skull. Electrophysiology shows that when those celebratory sounds and lights happen, your brain fires off what's called a reward positivity wave.
Okay, what does that mean?
This wave happens at about 240 milliseconds after the spin stops.
Wait, 240 milliseconds? So my conscious mind, like my prefrontal cortex, hasn't even had the time to do the basic math yet.
Exactly. Your slower, rational cortex doesn't have time to realize you lost 70 cents before your lightning-fast subconscious reward system has already overridden reality.
Wow.
It chemically registers a net financial loss as a victory. The audiovisual cues just act as a bypass valve straight to your dopamine system.
So if I sit down at a machine and I am getting relentlessly hammered with near misses and losses disguised as wins over and over again, I mean, I have to imagine that scrambles my overall awareness.
It really does.
If my brain is constantly misfiring and celebrating losses, it must lull people into some kind of trance, right?
It absolutely does. Psychologists actually have a name for this trance. They call it dark flow.
Dark flow sounds intense.
It is. It's a highly immersive dissociative state because the machine provides this rapid, rhythmic, continuous sensory feedback. Especially those celebratory sounds players, just lose their sense of time.
Yeah.
Their self-awareness completely fades away, and crucially, they block out the reality of their mounting financial losses. The stress of the real world just falls away, and there's nothing left but the rhythm of the machine.
Before we talk about how to break out of that trance, I want to take a brief pause here. If you or someone you know struggles with compulsive or problem gambling, free help is available 24 hours a day by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. You can also head over to the Mind Over Odds website at www.mindoverodds.com to gain more insights in emotional control while gambling and in other high-risk areas of your lives.
That is such an important resource to share because breaking out of that dark flow state is incredibly difficult. And what's worse, the machines are designed to weaponize your emotions even when you do snap out of it.
Right, because let's say I do snap out of the dark flow for a second. I check my wallet or my bank balance on the screen, and I realize I am losing badly. I'm going to feel incredibly frustrated. Well, wouldn't that frustration naturally make me want to quit? I mean, if I keep burning my hand on a hot stove, my body's natural response is to stop touching the stove. Why does gambling bypass that defense mechanism?
That is one of the most profoundly counterintuitive parts of behavioral psychology. It brings us to something called frustration theory.
Okay, how does that work?
In normal everyday life, you are exactly right. Frustration is a biological stop sign. But a variable ratio environment like gambling breaks that rule.
Because of the unpredictability again.
Exactly. Because of the random math, a long, frustrating losing streak will eventually, inevitably, be followed by a win.
Right, just by the simple law of averages, if you play long enough, a win hits.
Exactly. When that cycle happens repeatedly, The brain undergoes a process called counter-conditioning.
Counter-conditioning.
Yeah. Think of Pavlov's dogs learning to drool when they heard a bell because they knew food was coming.
Okay.
In a gambling environment, you subconsciously learn that feeling terrible, feeling frustrated and stressed is simply the necessary biological prequel to a payout.
Wow. So the frustration itself becomes the bell.
Yes, you are literally rewiring your nervous system to view stress as the prelude to relief.
That's crazy.
The internal feeling of frustration literally transforms into a psychological green light telling your body to keep playing because the brain thinks the only way to cure the frustration is to push through to the win.
That is terrifying. You're using your own negative emotions as fuel to continue. And I imagine this gets even deeper when we look at how we process memories over a long session, right?
It does. This connects directly to sequential theory. Our brains are incredibly efficient at holding on to the memory of a sequence of events.
Okay.
If you experience a streak of 5 painful losses, your brain holds an active mental sticky note like an active memory trace of that losing streak.
Right.
If that streak is suddenly broken by a massive win on the 6th try, the dopamine spike doesn't just attach to that single win. It washes backward over the entire sequence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your brain physically binds the memory of the painful losses to the joy of the reward.
So the worse we feel and the longer we lose, the more our brain is convinced that losing is just a mandatory part of the winning sequence.
Exactly. The losses become chemically inseparable from the wins in your memory.
So if we are constantly flooding the brain with these massive dopamine spikes and binding it to extreme stress, does the brain just build up a tolerance? Like, does the actual physical hardware of the brain change to protect itself from this chemical flood?
Yes, it does. And it leads to what we call the tolerance spiral. You see, your brain is a homeostatic organ.
Meaning it always wants to find a stable balance.
Right. When the brain is chronically flooded with huge dopamine surges from variable rewards, it defends itself by turning down its own sensitivity.
How does it do that?
Imagine your brain is playing a game of musical chairs. The dopamine molecules are the people, and the receptors are the chairs. To stop the overwhelming flood, the brain literally removes some of the chairs. Specifically, it downregulates the D2 receptors.
Okay, so you physically have fewer receptors to catch the dopamine. What does that actually feel like for a person walking around in their daily life?
It makes normal life feel incredibly gray and dull. Eating a good meal, hanging out with friends, going for a walk, things that normally give a healthy, modest dopamine release suddenly aren't enough to register.
Because there aren't enough chairs to catch the molecules.
Exactly. The individual requires more and more intense thrills, higher stakes, and faster gameplay just to feel a baseline level of normal satisfaction. When they aren't gambling, they are trapped in a state of chronic apathy.
Wow. So they aren't even gambling to get high anymore. They are gambling just to feel normal.
Right.
And it's not just dopamine that gets disrupted, is it?
Right.
Because people don't just gamble to feel happy. I mean, a lot of people describe it as feeling alive or awake.
That's a crucial distinction, and it involves the norepinephrine system.
Norepinephrine, okay.
Norepinephrine is our fight-or-flight chemical. It
Sure.
governs our physiological arousal, our alertness, our sense of vitality.
Hmm.
Clinical observations show that many people who struggle with problem gambling actually have naturally lower baseline levels of norepinephrine.
So it's like they are walking through the world with the volume turned down. They naturally feel more emotionally flat or physically sluggish.
Exactly. They exist in a default state of under-arousal.
Mm.
A cup of coffee just doesn't quite wake them up.
Oh, I see.
So when they enter the highly volatile, risk-heavy environment of gambling, the intense stress and uncertainty trigger a massive physiological surge of norepinephrine. They're essentially using extreme financial risk as self-medication to feel awake, focused, and alive.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. The environment is hacking our biology on a deep structural level. We've got the dopamine gap keeping us anticipating, the tolerance spiral dulling our joy, and fake wins tricking our cortex.
It's a lot.
It sounds terrifyingly effective. How do we fight back? We can't rewire our own brain chemistry on the spot. How do we take back control from these designs?
A lot of it comes down to intentionally unmasking the deception in real time.
What do you mean by unmasking?
Let's go back to those losses disguised as wins. When you look at the research, scientists found that if you force a slot machine to play a sad descending tone when you lose 70 cents, instead of playing that celebratory music, the brain doesn't get tricked.
Really? Just changing the sound?
Yes, the sound. That 240 millisecond reward positivity wave in the brain completely disappears.
So the celebratory music is the structural glue holding the entire illusion together.
Exactly. When you strip away the deceptive audio, your cognitive and physiological systems accurately register the spin as a financial loss.
Yeah.
It corrects your memory of the session, and it prevents you from slipping into the trance of dark flow.
That makes perfect sense. But obviously, we can't go around rewiring the speakers at a casino or reprogramming our social media apps, right? We have to do that unmasking in our own heads.
Right.
So what if we suggest a small daily habit for the listener?
Let's hear it.
The next time you feel that magnetic pull, whether it's at a machine or just mindlessly scrolling on your phone, just take a single deep breath, pause, and ask yourself out loud, am I actually winning right now, or is this just a loss disguised as a win? Just naming the mechanism gives you your power back.
I love that. That is a phenomenal daily habit. Yeah, because you are actively visualizing that sad tone in your mind when you realize you're engaging in a behavior that isn't actually rewarding you. It forces your prefrontal cortex, your rational, slow decision-making center, to step in and override the automatic habitual response driven by your primitive midbrain.
So it's about consciously pulling yourself out of the subconscious trance and planting yourself firmly back into reality.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a really provocative question to think about as we wrap up today.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
If our brains are this incredibly malleable, if we can be so easily manipulated by flashing lights, near misses, and variable rewards, where else in your daily life are you being placed on a variable ratio schedule without your explicit consent?
Oh, wow.
Is it the social media algorithm that feeds you a perfectly timed outrage post just when you're about to close the app? Is it your email inbox where every refresh holds the random mathematical chance of an exciting opportunity or a stressful demand? Or is it the video games that use randomized loot boxes to keep you playing? True emotional control means recognizing the game no matter where it's being played.
That is a profound thought to end on. Recognizing the game is the very first step to stepping out of it entirely.
Exactly.
Well, if you found this conversation helpful today, please follow and like the show or leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people in our community find these resources.
You can also visit the Mind Over Odds YouTube channel for more psychology-based insights on gambling behavior. We'll talk to you next time. Control your emotions.
Control your outcomes.